Hello students, welcome back, and here's a guide for your first essay. Your first essay is a visual analysis, and you will analyze a visual very much like you did in the discussion board, except of course this will be a little bit more developed. And before you begin that, I would suggest that you perhaps look at some of the notes just to make sure, refresh your memory. In content, in the rhetorical analysis folder, go ahead and look at the Art of Rhetoric, which is the elements of rhetorical analysis, a Word document, and a PDF, either one, whichever is easiest for you. You don't need to look at the entire document, but just review the first few questions that you are trying to answer as you analyze the visual. The first question is, what is the artist's primary purpose? What is he or she trying to do for the viewer? And again, here are some of the purpose verbs. This is key in analyzing anything, so be sure to answer this question several times throughout your analysis. Another question that you may wish to consider is, what is the author's attitude towards the subject, the tone of the piece, is there a tonal shift? And again, here are some tone words that may help you with that. You may also wish to answer the trust issue. Do we trust the artist? Is he credible? Does he have good intentions, good character? Has he done his homework? Does he know the context of the time period in which he is creating this artwork? And so consider this as well. And then finally, you may wish to answer, what is the emotional effect that the artist is trying to have on the reader? How does he want to make us feel? And the tone words are emotion words, and so you can use those to help you. Just quickly look over those notes before you begin. And also, it will be helpful for you to look in the visual analysis folder. In that folder, there's Optic, that is a strategy for analyzing visuals. And if you scroll down, you have the narrative essay prompt. And so let's look at the prompt real fast. This is your first essay assignment. It tells you to select a work of art that conveys a narrative, and a narrative is a story. Okay, so the visual tells some kind of story. Oftentimes it's based on mythology or legend or history or some literary work or oral tradition. And so the most difficult part with finding the narrative in artwork is that most stories have a beginning, middle, and end, but often in the visual it's just capturing a moment of the story, and you have to kind of piece the rest of the story together. Here are two really good resources. So if you're struggling to find an image, start with the Norman Rockwell Museum or Life Picture Collection, because they have some beautiful images that you can use. Here are the requirements. It needs to be at least 1,100 words, multi-paragraph form, MLA documentation and format, and I'll explain that a little later on. And you have this content. You hook the reader, you have background information, you have a strong claim or thesis. You include, this is several examples of evidence, which in this case will be you referring directly to the artwork and looking at the different elements of design, which also means you have the technical vocabulary. And so I've included in your assignment a possible outline, so please feel free to use that as a guide. You don't have to write an outline, but it may help with this, and I will show you what I mean by that as well. Excuse me, one thing that you may wish to do if you didn't do it for the discussion board is look at this presentation, the formal visual analysis presentation. I have it online and as a PowerPoint. This will help so much with the technical vocabulary that you have to include in this essay. And so I don't want to walk you or read all these slides to you, but if you scroll through and look at these terms, like line is just the basic building block, and the lines create shapes like squares or triangles, and then shapes create forms, three-dimensional forms. And so it's important as you analyze your visual that you use the technical vocabulary. Here's an example of lines. So you have these vertical lines throughout this painting. You have the shapes like the triangle here and the triangle here. And these move your eye, this forces your eye to move across the painting. And so that might be one way you tackle this essay. There's also value, color, and texture. Value is the degree of light and darkness, or the contrast between black and white and the different tones of color. Contrast is extreme changes. Color kind of breaks up the different shapes, and so you can see um, the different parts because of the color, how each element has a different shade perhaps. And then what's nice about texture is even on a two-dimensional surface like this flat slide, there is texture. This looks like a rough background, and so you may wish to look at those elements in your visual. And here's an example, and it has the different colors. They're all kind of calming and pastel here in the background, but it goes this very light, bright area here where the light is reflecting in through the window. You have the contrast, these complementary colors between the yellow and the blue of her clothing. It looks like right here the wall is a little bit rough and textured, and same thing with the baskets hanging on the wall. So all these different elements cause your eye to move around, and they create an emotion or a feeling to the work, which is important to address in your writing. Again, here's balance. This is, if you look at this image, it is kind of divided in half. You have the trees in the top half, which have a lot of texture, and the smooth water in the bottom half, and so that's important to consider. Contrast is how you get the reader's eye to move through the elements. Like you have the rough texture here, and you have the smooth texture here, and so that's something to consider. Movement, again, is how you move your eye through the artwork. Where's the main focus? Where do you stop? Where do you go next? And so what's the emphasis of the painting or photograph? This might be the emphasis, might be the people in front. You have these different colored canoes here, and then the jacket right here of what looks like a younger child. Okay, pattern is repeated shape of form. You have these tree trunks that go up, and the proportion is, you know by looking at this that the people are much smaller than the nature that surrounds them. Okay, and so last thing is the unity. How does the artist create this kind of balanced sense of harmony? And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they create tension, and so you have to decide, what does your artist use? So review that before we begin. And then finally, here I'm going to start at the Norman Rockwell Museum, where you can look at these beautiful images, because he does a nice job of telling stories with his images. And you may select one. And plus, what's nice about this resource, it gives you information, the background information, and even some information sometimes by Norman Rockwell himself, where he explains his the story behind his artwork. Okay, I want to show you one more thing before you begin. Here is an example of an outline of a painting that I did for you. So you don't have to write an outline, like I said earlier, but it is really helpful sometimes. And so here's this painting. It is called Breaking Home Ties, Boy and Father Sitting on Truck. And I kind of created this outline just to help me figure out where I would go if I had to write an essay on this. And so I have the context, which is the time period, the artist, and the general story behind this image. And then I would start my first body with perhaps the focal point, which is the father and son in the middle. And I've highlighted the different technical vocabulary that focuses on some of the elements of composition. You really need to make sure you have that in your essay. So feel free to look at this and create one of your own if you like, because it really will help you write your essay where you can piece together the different parts. I've also included a works cited page, and so if you need to have a works cited page that cites if you get information about the history, this background information, and where your image comes from originally. And so be sure to do that. And one last thing, and then you are on your own. In the content, under general writing tips, there is a very useful website. It's Purdue Online Writing Lab, and it has the MLA formatting and style. And so all your essays have to be formatted using the Modern Language Association style. And so if you scroll down, it tells you the paper format, that you need to have it double-spaced, the 12-point font times New Roman is always a good way to type it. This is what an essay should look like. It has the heading, which is the student name, professor name, class name, date. The date is European style, where you have the month, or the day, the month, and the year, and then you notice the title. There's no quotation marks in the title, it's just the title. This right here tells you that create a header in the upper right hand corner that includes your last name followed by a space with a page number. Your instructor may ask that you omit last name, page number, header on your first page, so I prefer that it's not there. This to me has your name. You don't need it again here with page 1. And so, but page 2 should say last name, page 2. Page 3, last name 3. Okay, and then I want to show you one more resource that will be very, very helpful, and that is EasyBib.com. It is a generator for your Works Cited page, and for example, in the Norman Rockwell painting that I used, I would go to the 59 options, and there's painting artwork, and I put in the title, the collection. It is at the Norman Rockwell Museum, in Massachusetts from 1957, I believe. The artist, it is oil on canvas. And once you fill in this information, it actually creates the Works Cited entry for you, the citation for you, and it makes life so much easier. And I think that's all you need. Good luck.